our first test, we want our air tank drained to zero. So what we're going to do is plug in the squirt valve, so we hear no noise, no air coming out at all. Both your wet tank and your primary and secondary tanks. So as we see, they're both plugged to zero. We've already done it. Now we're going to go ahead and move on the inside and finish the rest of our step one. Alright, I'm going to do an overview of the overall test. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the truck on, run it on a fast idle. After running on a fast idle, we should look at the indicators, the brake pressure indicators. They should make a noise and have a visual blinker until 60 psi. At 60 psi, the warning should kick off. That warning is basically tell you can't move, you don't have enough pressure in the air system to operate the vehicle. So what you're going to do now, after it cuts off, we're going to let it build pressure, and then after it builds about an 85, we're going to time how long it takes to go from 85 to 100 psi. The time that it takes for it to go from 85 to 100 psi should be 40 seconds or under. So if it's within 40 seconds or under, that means the compressor is and the air system is not leaking anywhere. It's just pumping air into those air tanks properly and building pressure at the right time. And then we're going to pump it up to full pressure. On vehicles normally around 120 psi. Then we should hear the air dryer purge. After we hear the air dryer purge, what's going to happen is the governor should cut out around that pressure. And then after that, we're going to reduce 30 psi from the max pressure we already had, and then we should hear the governor cut in. So we're going to see the cut out first when it builds to full pressure, and then after that we're going to see the cut in pressure. And then after that, our test will be all done, and that will be our first test for us today. Alright guys, as you see, we have the brake lights on. We're at 0 psi currently. So what's going to happen is we're going to let it build and watch for it to cut out at 60 psi. You want to increase the idle a little bit and make sure you're getting more air pressure pumped in the tanks, because otherwise it would take a much longer time. So whenever I build to 60 psi, I'll cut in the video, and we're gonna watch that alarm go off, and the visual little red indicator as well. Alright, shortly we should see that that noise come off and the lights shut off. So as we watch it, you want a little faster idle. Alright, you saw the lights come off and the indicators go out around 65. Now what we're going to do is build up the pressure to 85 and watch how long it takes for it to go to 100. And I'm going to time that, and if it's under 40 seconds, it should be all good. Alrighty, we're around to 85. Now we're going to time how many seconds it takes to go to 100. I'm going to pause the video. I don't want to keep you guys watching at a gauge for a long amount of time. Alrighty, we hit 100. It was in about 33 seconds, so we did pretty good on our test. It might be a little faster as you idle up, or some people just like to keep the idle low like me. Might take a little longer. So now we're going to build to full pressure and listen for the governor to cut in and the air dryer to purge. We're getting to close to cutout pressure. Alrighty guys, we're just gonna listen for it to purge. Alright, there we go. The air dryer purged for us. This test was complete as well. So the governor is working well and it's cutting out at a good pressure. Now we're going to go below 30 psi and watch it kick back on. I'm going to skip to the part where I purged it all the way down to that point and see if it cuts in. Alrighty guys, so I saw the governor kick back in after I cut out around 30 psi, and we can see the cut in works fine. The governor's doing its job as it should. So the governor cut in was good as well. So this test is complete now. We're going to move on to the next test for you. Alright guys, for test number 2, what we have done is we let the air pressure stabilize for a minute, and we're going to do a walk around and see if there's any air leaks, listen for any air leaks. And all we're allowed is 4 pounds of lost pressure. If it's over than that threshold, there's a leak somewhere and we need to find it and detect it. So what I'm going to do right now is get off the truck and do a walk around and check everything out, see if it's leaking. Alrighty, while we're doing our walk around, I want to put one key point into this second step of ours. You want your parking brake not to be applied. That's why our wheels are chalked. So after it's chalked, we see the constant pressure is right about 120, a little below it, and we're going to let it rest for 2 minutes, walk around while it's resting for 2 minutes, and just check around for leaks. So now I'm going to go ahead and walk around. Alrighty, what you want to do, you might have a bottle with soapy water. My hands are taken up at this moment, but if you hear any air leaks, you want to spray them. So we're going to look at our chambers, our lines. We're going to look at our compressor as well, at our dryers. So we're going to look all around. Make sure you spray a lot of spots if you have a system leak. Alright, we're going to walk over this way now. And you want to check your bellows. Sometimes they get cracks over time, and you want to check those for air leaks as well. Check the fittings to our dryer. We don't seem to be having any leaks from the fittings. Go back around, check the other chambers as well. You always want to check your fittings and hoses. And you want to check your valves as well. Make sure you check all the air brake components. So after you check that, you want to also check your airbags. See if those have any leaks. As we see, we don't hear anything from these. Our system is good. Alrighty. And as I said, you want to check all your relay valves, all your valves from the air system, all the hoses, all the fittings. And we're going to walk over to this air chamber. As we see, I don't hear any hissing noise or hear anything coming from it. So I think it's pretty good. And then check all your airbags. There we go. See, it's a little bit corroded on top. You want to check for any cracks on it or any hissing noises. Alrighty. We're going to walk over every chamber and every fitting. See, this chamber over here doesn't make too much noise. No noise from that one. So we're going to check our chamber here. There are no hissing noises from this one as well. So we're going to go walk over in the cab, wait our full 2 minutes, and see if any air pressure has dropped. And we're going to check the fittings and the valves as well, like I said earlier. and it's handy to have a soapy water bottle and a sprayer, and spray around all the lines of the fittings. So now we're going to go ahead and walk over our cab after we're done with the walk around. And we're going to see if any air pressure has dropped. Alrighty, now we're back in the cab. We'll wait our full 2 minutes. As we see, we have very minimal drop in air pressure. It's about only a pound, so our system shows to be good. And now we're going to move on to the next portion. Alrighty, what we're going to do now is the second part of our test 2. So our parking brake is applied. We're at full pressure here, and we've held constant for a minute or so. And the pressure is a little higher since the parking brakes are applied, but this is going to allow us to basically see if any of the suspension components or bellows, if anything else that's not brake related is leaking. So I double checked that stuff on the first step. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again for you guys. And I'll be doing the walk around in just a second. Alright guys, we're going to see for stuff that's not brake related mostly. You also want to do a second pass around and see if anything has a major leak. I did the first pass around the first time. But the service brake wasn't applied, so it didn't center as much on the suspension. So the bellow here, we're going to check for any cracks or any leaks. You want to listen for any hissing noises. So we're going to check for our airbags as well. Look for any cracks or hissing noises. Look at all the components, all the bags themselves. You want to check on top too, where the air pressure is applied. Alrighty, so as you see, all our bags are looking in good shape. None of them are making any hissing noises. And we're going to walk around every single one. Look at the lines. Make sure you're checking the lines that go to the bags on top. It's a little bit harder to see on this axle. So after we finished our walk around and checked all our brakes and all, test 2 is finally complete. Alright guys, now we're going to move on to test 3. What we're going to do is the audible chuff test. So when we turn the ignition off, we're going to depress the brakes. What that's going to do is it's going to energize every modulator, and at full pressure it should make an audible, single audible sharp chuff. What we're listening for is for 7 chuffs. One from the steering axle right, steer axle left, drive axle right, drive axle left, additional axle right, additional axle left, and drive axle. So we're going to begin in a second. You want to depress the brake and just put it on. Put the vehicle on, don't turn it on. It's an audible test. If the car was on, you wouldn't really be able to hear the small little chuffs. Alright guys, we're going to begin our chuff test. We're our tanks are fully pressurized, so we're going to depress the brake pedal. And what's that going to do at full pressure? It's going to allow the modulators to be energized and release a single sharp chuff, making sure they all work. You want to listen to them. There is a pattern to them. It starts from right front, right rear, left rear, and it goes from that. We're going to listen for 7 chuffs, and we're going to go ahead and begin. We're at full pressure right now. You're going to put it on just on the on position. So what I did is depress the brake pedal, put it on the on position. Alright, and now you can hear the chuffs. Alrighty. There we go. The chuff test is performed. All the modulators worked fine as they were energized. I could hear the chuffs. I could hear the direction where mostly we're coming from, and it did start from the front of the vehicle and moved on to the back. And now after this, we're going to move on to our next test and inform you more on the air brake systems test. Okay, we're going to move on to our step 4, guys. On step 4, you want the engine stopped, the parking brakes released as they are right now, and you want to make a brake application at 80 to 90 psi and hold it for 2 minutes and watch for a drop. You're only allowed a 4 psi drop. Make sure you're allowed to stabilize for around a minute, so the air pressure stabilizes, and then you're gonna apply the brake as we are right now. So you're gonna watch that needle for 2 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and skip after 2 minutes. Alright guys, I've been holding it for 2 minutes now. I barely noticed any drop. If the drop was very minimal, maybe a pound, very slight movement. So our air pressure system was allowed about 4 psi threshold, and this test allows us to see while the brakes are applied, while the surface brake is applied, and all the diaphragms in the chambers and the whole system and the valves are working, we're not losing any air anywhere. So we passed this test. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one, and I'll see you guys shortly. Now what we're gonna do is check the park brake control valve, and you want to be idling at 600 or 900 RPMs, and you want to check if that's functioning properly. So we're gonna go ahead and turn our truck on. Alrighty, and we're at an idle. We also want to gain full pressure, so I'm going to skip to the portion where we're at full pressure and check that, pull that park control valve in and out, make sure it's functioning properly. Alright guys, we're at idle, and what we're going to do now is make sure the park and brake control valve is working properly. As we see right now, it's not applied. We have chalked the wheels to make sure we're on roll. Here we go. We're gonna pull it out and push it in. Alrighty, we're gonna check the parking control valve now and apply it or disengage it. We're gonna apply it first, disengage it. As we see, it's working properly. And now we're gonna move to our next and final test. Alright guys, now we're gonna go on to step 6. What we're gonna do is check the one-way valve and our protection valve and drain the primary tank right now. And after we drain the primary tank, after we drain it, we're going to fully drain it. After it's all drained, we're going to apply the brakes, make sure the protection valve is working correctly, and applying all brakes all around in case of emergency situations where one of your tanks runs out of air and has no pressure. And then we're going to do the same step for the other tank as well, the secondary, and make sure the brakes apply and the protection valve works correctly. And we're also going to check the one-way check valve on that as well. Make sure everything is all good. So after we drain this tank, we're going to go hop in there, make sure the one-way check valve works. What you should notice is it works correctly is that this one of them will hold pressure and the other will won't. Alright guys, we drained the primary tank, and now what we're looking for is to see if the other tank held pressure. So as we see, it's holding pressure fine. The one-way check valve is working. So what I'm going to have to do is walk around and have someone apply the brakes and listen for the brakes being applied. I'm gonna do it on every axle and every wheel. Make sure it's applying evenly all around. Alright, now we drained the primary. So the primary activates the back. We can see they're all working evenly all around. You could hear the pads and all the chamber diaphragms working. Gonna do a quick walk around. Let them apply. And we can see the protection valve is working correctly. Alright, now what we're going to do is drain the secondary tank. The secondary tank provides air to our front brakes, our steer brakes, steer axle. So we're going to drain it to zero. And then after we drain it to zero, we're going to check our check valve. The way you check your check valve is to see if the primary tank will hold air while the secondary is being drained to zero. And if it holds air, that means the check valve is working correctly. And then afterwards, we're going to apply the brakes. And our protection valve should apply evenly to all the brakes, even though it has pressure in one tank. Alright, as you see, we drained the secondary tank all the way to zero. Primary is still holding pressure. That check valve is all good. So what we're going to do now, since the secondary provide air pressure to the primary, we want to make sure that protection valve allows the whole brake system to apply, and we're going to walk around while someone is applying the brakes for us and make sure it's applying it also to the front. Alright, we got someone applying the brakes. We can hear that chamber diaphragm. It's applying all brakes evenly. So as I said, the secondary is drained. We're using air from the primary, and the brakes are applying fine. So as you see, our protection valve is working good. Test number 6 is all done.